And now I understand yesterday was Halloween for those not in North America. I'm not sure how widespread Halloween is celebrated outside of these shores. But it was also the launch date for one of the most highly anticipated RPGs. It's been a long time coming. A lot of people talked about it, especially the developer. Hellgate London. Now, for many of you who are familiar with kind of the guy behind it, he was the guy behind Diablo 2 as well.
Well, most of the team that was behind the Diablo series moved over to work on this game.
So, a lot of people people still do have great expectations about this game. Now, is this Diablo 3?
No, it is not Diablo 3. Actually, the funny thing is, I'm glad you said it up top, because there are still a lot of people that this requires explanation for. They think that it's like that it is like either Diablo 3, or some people actually think it's a first-person shooter.
Yeah, I saw some of the screenshots that they were putting up, and it looked like like Hexen. It was a first-person kind of magic fantasy shooter.
Yeah, actually, the best way I've been trying to describe it to people, it's a little bit like, have you played Deus Ex? It's a classic. To me, it feels like a little bit like Deus Ex, a little bit like Guild Wars.
Now, is this kind of how it plays?
Actually, yes. How's that for a segue?
Yes, let's start playing now.
Okay, so right now I'll just show you. I have three different characters, kind of typifying the three different play styles you have in the game. There's Lord McSlashington.
And like Diablo, you can you create your own character with hair, clothes.
Yeah, exactly. You customize it to a certain degree, and then as you go through the game, you get more loot, and that's when your character starts really taking on a life of its own.
And the background for the story is essentially demons have sprung forth from these Hellgates in London.
Right. Well, supposedly the world. I mean, I guess Hackensack is next, maybe. I don't know, but for the moment, you're taking on demons in London. And it seemed like a really appropriate city. Anyhow, so here we have, this is your typical hack slash. This is the kind of experience you had with, your typical warrior in any game. Then you have, although it doesn't look like it, this is a level 1 dude.
Now, is that a club or a gun in his hand?
Oh, that's a gun. It's like it launches little flaming bolts.
Okay.
But these guys, they have little magical. Later on, they get little magical foci, focuses.
Oh, I got a
little focal point. They shoot out energy balls with and stuff like that. And then there's the.
Cool.
And then you have it gives you more of a. This is probably the most misleading because you'll think it's a first-person shooter, but it really isn't.
Cool. Can we?
Let's just go in. I'll show you.
Let's jump in with this particular character with the gun now.
Okay, now I'm going to say actually I'm going online right now on a live multiplayer server, so we might run into some other people.
Actually, that's good you mentioned it. I understand there is a multiplayer online aspect. Now, some people have alluded this is actually some sort of online multiplayer MMORPG style gameplay. Is that true or not?
Yes and no. I mean, allow me to explain. Okay, so when you played Diablo 2 and you played a multiplayer game, you logged into Blizzard servers.
Yes.
And you'd go into a chat room, and then you'd find buddies to play with, right?
Correct.
So these hub areas, the subway stations and stuff like that, are like those chat rooms. You're walking around and you're interacting with other people. And then once you leave the safety of the station, you go into an instanced randomized encounter. So basically, you have a chance to meet up with people online right there in that hub, and then you go into your own private world.
So once you're in your private world, you don't do the same interaction that you would have in the player hub.
Exactly.
Got it. Now, what are we looking at right here?
So this is actually the very first part of the game. So I have a really low level, character, like level 1 or 2, and I'm just walking in the first station. And as you can see,
and this is where you interact with NPCs and other player characters.
So this is just like literally, I'm just going to pick up the first mission or so. You chat with somebody. I'm not going to sit here and go through the whole thing, but you get the idea. I'm going to go help this kid get his fake leg back.
Wow, sounds very Harry Potter-ish for the child.
Indeed. All right, so I'm just going to go now. I'm not talking to anyone else. Obviously, I could draft other people to join me on my quest.
Now look at the graphics. Mm-hmm. This is DX10 game.
It is a DX10, but you can play it in DX9.
Okay. So if you're not in Vista and you don't have one of those highfalutin NVIDIA DX10 or ATI DirectX 10, you can still play this game pretty well.
Yeah. Okay, now as you can see right now, I'm playing this in first-person mode, and it looks like, your somewhat typical first-person shooter, and it's a couple things you'll notice right off the top is that I'm not reloading my weapon or anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of odd.
I know, and that's one of the disconnects people are kind of that might have a tough time wrapping their head around, is that,
You don't run out of ammo?
Nope, you don't run out of ammo, and basic things like crouching, like you have to. It's actually a skill you have to earn, and it gives you
have to earn the ability to crouch.
Exactly, because I personally, I still haven't quite mastered that.
Yeah.
Walking and chewing gum's kind of tough too.
So you got to level up in order to squat down.
Exactly.
Perfect.
But here I'm just, but just to give you a sense of the game.
This is the pretty much 80% of the view that people would be playing the game.
Well, yeah. If you go and play as a hack and slash sort of thing, you're locked into this kind of view, external view.
And you're given as mission objectives, and you go and run around and shoot and pick up those mission objectives as you play along.
That's exactly right. And basically, the interesting part is, I mean, they couldn't use the Unreal Engine or some other kind of highfalutin Crysis engine or something. This is basically a fully randomized world. What's happened? So basically, I took a mission. I went into that portal. I come out and the street won't be the same. Basically, it's the game engine. The game engine is actually stitching the pieces together.
So every time you come back into this world, it's always going to be slightly different.
Right, and that was kind of the charm when I was playing Diablo the first time around, because you always went in and you could play for hours, and you come out, and then you go back in, and it was a totally different setup. I mean, you knew there were going to be some end bosses you got to fight.
But the exact number of enemies, the type of enemies, kind of their mix would be different.
Exactly, and that's kind of what they're banking on for people that want to come back and keep playing. So to kind of go back to a question you kind of brought up originally, you were wondering, is it an MMO or is it not? Mm-hmm. So the game is, you pay, you buy the box, you take it home, you play it, you have a full experience. And then what they're saying is on top of that, there is a paid charge. For if you want to get extra, like they can have regular content updates, kind of like an MMO, and then there's going to be other levels of service. You'll have, basically you have more item slots, more you can create more characters. There's a lot of extra gradations, but I think that's the part of the confusion is is it an MMO? Is it not? So my initial answer would be no. It can if you want it to be. Test it out and then go from there.
And there's a pay subscription portion of it. So if you're paying money into the MMO or the online multiplayer, what are the advantages of actually just paying into it?
Well, like I was saying, so you have this. They'll have regular content updates, more missions, more character classes, more weapons, all sorts of stuff.
And
and also something I should point out. So this is the skill chart. This is basically for anyone who played Diablo games. This was the coolest part of the game.
Very familiar looking.
So basically, it's a similar kind of idea. Now here. Like I said, I chose the tactical stance skill, crouching, and you can do anything. You can get grenades. You can have rapid fire. I'm going to do that kind of like that one. So let's just drag that over to the taskbar. I'll show you that in a second. I'm sorry, what?
Oh no, I'm just saying now. This is very familiar for people who play Diablo, even a game like Titan Quest.
Yeah.
So as you progress through the game, is there an end to it?
There is a story. Granted, I haven't had a chance to finish it yet. It's just.
But there is a definite end. There is the beginning and end. There's kind of a. It's not.
There is a story arc.
Okay.
I mean, there is in Diablo there was a story, there was an end point too, but the point is there are going to be additional checkpoints. Like for example, I think that they plan on having, or if they haven't already released it, there's going to be a Halloween launch pack for premiere content, and I know they're going to have another one around Christmas time. So they're planning to have fairly regular updates.
So is it something that people who are either hardcore RPGers or people familiar with Diablo can get into, or is it pretty open for anyone who's kind of interested in something this?
Well, the cool part about Diablo is that it was really easy to do. It was just you right and left click, and that was it. And it can get as deep as you wanted it to get too. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where this game is. You can breeze right through it with minimal worry, or you can actually really dig in and customize your weapons and just do all kinds of crazy stuff. Because you find these parts in the world and you slap them on your guns and stuff.
Cool.